Kanaka Creek Regional Park, located in the coastal rainforest of Maple Ridge, British Columbia. This perennial creek's headwaters are located in the Blue Mountain Provincial Forest area of Golden Ears. It flows through town and feeds into the Fraser River. This study will focus on the Rainbow Bridge portion of the creek. The edges of the creek are lined with 2 to 30 plus meters of grassland. Within this area there are various wetland trees and shrubs. On the north side, much of the creekside is overrun by Himalayan blackberry shrubs, an invasive species in the area, competing with the native vegetation. A widely invasive Asian berry introduced from India to England. An erect, then arching, then trailing plant with prickles and producing 1 to 1.5 centimeter thick edible blackberries. Beyond the grass, a forested area begins with a line of mainly deciduous trees. This includes vine maples, broadleaf maples, and the dominant vegetation of the area, black cottonwood. A deciduous tree, up to 50 meters tall, grows white fluffy seeds with capsules which split and fall to the ground. Grows in low to medium elevation and in floodplains along rivers. Venturing deeper into the forested area, we find more evergreen trees. This includes western hemlocks, an evergreen up to 60 meters tall with short, flat needles and small seed cones. They grow in low to medium elevation and from decaying wood. Western red cedars can also be found in the forest. An evergreen up to 60 meters tall with droopy scale-like leaves and small reddish cones. They grow in low to medium elevation in moist to wet soil. The forest also contains snags, which host other life such as insects, mosses, and ferns. Sword ferns can also be found on the ground layer of the forest. The park is host to a variety of wildlife as well. This includes birds such as sparrows and ducks, larger wildlife such as bears, and coho, chum, pink, steelhead, and cutthroat salmon frequent the creek during spawning season. This part of the creek is fairly deep and slow-flowing and therefore has a higher rate of primary production than faster-moving portions of the creek. Due to the size and quantity, the substrate in the Rainbow Bridge area of the creek would be adequate. However, there is a large deposit of silt in the creek. This sediment can settle in the substrate, making it unsuitable for primary production, as well as smothering salmon reds and spawning salmon themselves. The sides of the creek are partially eroded and therefore could be unstable. The riparian zone of Kanaka Creek is quite wide, at least 25 meters from the road all around this area. As the creek is bordered immediately by grassland for several meters, there is little shade for the creek. There are a few creekside trees and shrubs which provide some cover, debris, and drop-off of insects for fish. There is a fair amount of diversity in vegetation. However, the native vegetation must compete with the growing blackberry shrub invasion. Though it has a wide riparian zone as a buffer, the Kanaka Creek area is majorly affected by human activity. Firstly, the sedimentation is likely contributed to by urban runoff from the encroaching development surrounding the creek. Runoff is also a major problem from agricultural land upstream, which can lead to pollution and eutrophication. The invasive blackberries are also human-caused, introduced from India to England, then here. An obvious impact by humans is the Trans-Canada Trail running through the park. Immediately off the bridge there is a wooden boardwalk, which does not cause as much disruption as the gravel path which runs through the rest. The construction of the trail required clear-cutting of the forest, and the gravel path disrupts the hydrological cycle through runoff and blockage of surface and ground water. The trail also leads to harassment of the environment and wildlife by humans and dogs, often directly disrupting salmon spawning. Additionally, there is a history of logging throughout the park, explaining the lack of mature forest. All of these activities and more, including global climate change, have immense cumulative impacts on this environmentally sensitive area. The park is fairly well managed, working with Metro Vancouver, the BC Ministry of Environment, and the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans. However, there is a lot of room for improvement. Firstly, the last management plan for Kanaka Creek Regional Park was created in July 2004. Therefore, a new assessment and management plan should be put in place. Based on this field study, the plan should include, at the least, a cutoff for urban development in the area, management of the invasive species, strict policies for agriculture surrounding the creek, a trail system which allows for better connectivity between humans and nature, such as a wooden boardwalk rather than a gravel path, so not to disrupt the hydrological cycle. Planting of native species along the creekside to improve riparian coverage, and education of the community about human impacts on the environment. This study of the Rainbow Bridge area of Kanaka Creek Regional Park indicated that it has a diverse vegetation, including shrubs, evergreens, and deciduous trees, including the dominant vegetation, black cottonwoods, that it is inhabited by a variety of fauna, including birds, bears, and salmon, that the ecosystem is fairly healthy as there is a wide riparian zone. However, there are several indicators that illustrate a threat to its health, including sediment buildup, channel erosion, lack of shade, and invasive species. The study also revealed a long list of human impacts on the region, such as trails, urban and agricultural runoff, logging, and other cumulative impacts, which can hopefully be mitigated by a more up-to-date management plan to preserve and enhance this environmentally sensitive area.